Raymond, you are, among other things, well informed on history. Can you give us three three most important things that Africans need to know about their history, uh, and what are some of those three things?
Wow, that's a big one. You know, I think that first of all, Africans need to read. You know, and I say in Warrior Method, in my first book, I said that I wish it's, and people have asked me this over and over. If you could give all Africans to do one thing every day, what would it be? I would say read 30 minutes a day. I'm just asking for 30 minutes a
That's
day.
nothing.
Read something about Africa.
Read comic books longer than that.
Something. Read Black Panther. If you ain't got the book, read Black Panther. But spend 30, and black folk, my students will say, well, that's a long time, 30 minutes. They'll look at Empire for an hour or Real Housewives of Jump Back Georgia for, 2 hours
Scandal.
or something, Scandal, 30 minutes a day, read something about Africans, just 30 minutes a day. I'm in the process of reading a massive book by Kwame Ture. It's a huge book, his autobiography. He wrote the last 18 months of his life, Ready for Revolution. And as you know, when Kwame answered the telephone, he always said, Ready for Revolution, to set a mindset. But if
See
I,
it?
oh, there it is. There it is right on the screen, Ready for Revolution. Powerful book. I mean, I would recommend everybody read that book. But if I were to say the three things that are most important in terms of our history, first you got to get an African foundation. So I would say go back to Kemet, but also go to Nubia and read all of that history. I mean, that's a huge history. I mean, people have to understand that for almost 8,000 years, Africans in Egypt, that was an intact civilization. And we need to get that rootedness in there. The second thing, you've got to read the period of enslavement. Um, and and I'm not skipping over the so-called, I don't like to use the term medieval, but Africans from roughly the invasion of Egypt all the way up to enslavement. That's an important period. People like Mansa Musa. So read that period. And thirdly, you've got to read, a thorough understanding of African Pan-Africanism, that you have to realize that all of that joy, it comes full circle. If you need to know in depth who Sylvester Williams is, who Du Bois is, Nkrumah, and what they did. So you need to read contemporary stuff. I tell my students a lot they need to read biographies, because biographies move pretty fast right now. And if you can read some biography, I want to, since Nadia held up a book, I'm going to hold up one too. I see it's on, I think I see it on, this is the one which is very good. It's a new biography of Malcolm X called The Dead Are Rising. And biography is good to read because biography takes you in depth into the person. And Du Bois, by David Leverly Lewis, is an excellent biography of W.B. Du Bois. So we need to read 30 minutes a day, And like John Henry Clark said about this whole division that we're going to be getting into, Africans and the ADOS movement is so guilty of this. Africans are always talking about where the slave ship landed, like, so I'm from Brooklyn, or I'm from Baltimore, or I'm from United States, or I'm from Cuba, or I'm from Jamaica, or whatever. And like ancestor John Henry Clark said, we need to not only talk about where the slave ship landed, but where it picked us all up. And we have that in common, as Baba Oba said, that the commonality of all African people is the continent, and particularly West Africa. Mm-hmm. And we need to talk more about where we came from and stop all of this division about, well, I'm Jamaican and you from California, and those West Indians do this and do that. All of that division because we don't study where we came from.
Very good. I would like to just add a couple of things to that. Often neglected when we look at ancient African history is the origin. And I agree with Raymond that it's very important to look at Kemet. It's the greatest achievement in ancient history, in world history, in terms of civilizations. Kemet is. And to ignore that would be like Europeans ignoring Greece, which got a lot of their stuff from us, though a lot more is their own. And they didn't just get it from us. And it is not necessarily their best stuff. But I would say we need to start with the beginning of human history, which is African history. That's the Twa. Europeans call them pygmies.
Yeah.
My book, The Integration Trap, Generation Gap Caused by a Choice Between Two Cultures. And by the way, the figure you see on the front with the left foot forward, that's an Anu, A-N-U person. And that person is Twa. He's agrarian Twa. And over on the right side, you'll see something with two ears. That's Set and four registers on the top, great ones. This was a ruler of a nome, which would be a state in ancient Kemet, pre-dynastic, going back 10,000 BC. So we often, when we study the civilization of Kemet, we don't look at pre-dynastic, but more important, we don't look at the Twa, who came into being 144,000 years ago and laid the foundation for human history. This book, The Integration Trap, covers it, but there's other works that cover it as well. The other thing I would say is the thing we neglect most here in studying our history is our culture.
That's right.
Afro-Haitians don't have a problem of that. They're proud of that. But some of us have drank the Kool-Aid. They stole our culture in slavery. They destroyed it. That's a part of this ADOS confusion.
Exactly.
If they stole it, explain to me, how is it that the world sees this as one of the great cultures of the world, the popular culture of the world? If they stole it, our culture is African-based, with certain things brought in that we needed for our survival, one of which is Pan-Africanism, the other of which is race consciousness, which is also something that ADOS wants to throw out the window. You know what I mean? Race consciousness. We need to study our culture. And in fact, we need a new African or an African-American cultural renaissance that complements the African-centered one. So, I want to just throw that out. I study all this other stuff, but I study my people first. Everybody should. You know what I mean?